Have you ever sat alone in your living room, looked at your phone, and thought, where did everyone go? After 70, many seniors feel the sting of silence more than ever. But here's the truth no one says out loud. You don't actually need friends anymore. In fact, trying to hold on to them could be what's making you feel more tired, more disappointed, and more alone. It sounds harsh, but for many people over 70, letting go of old expectations and embracing independence leads to something surprising: freedom, peace, and emotional strength. Not loneliness, clarity. If this message speaks to your experience, consider liking and subscribing. This space is for elderly reflections, senior health, and life lessons from the elderly, told honestly, with warmth and respect. First, you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. Think about your younger years. Back then, friendships were built on a constant undercurrent of performance. You had to show up, smile, contribute, be interesting, be helpful, be someone others wanted to be around. But once you hit your 70s, something shifts. You no longer owe anyone your energy just to be accepted. Mrs. Joanne, 74, once said, "When I was younger, I'd bend over backwards to stay in the loop. Now, if someone doesn't call me, I let them go. I have nothing left to prove." That's elderly wisdom speaking. You've already raised families, built careers, survived loss, and made it through decades of change. You don't need applause, you need authenticity. And when friendships no longer feel real, when they're filled with shallow small talk or old habits that don't serve you, it's okay to walk away. This isn't about cutting people off. It's about reclaiming your right to be at peace without performing. That's the quiet power of this age. Second, peace becomes more valuable than socializing. In your 30s and 40s, the phone never stopped ringing. Dinners, birthdays, reunions, obligations, your calendar was packed. But now, the most precious thing in the world is a quiet morning, a peaceful afternoon, a day where no one demands your attention. That's not isolation, that's freedom. Mr. Glenn, 77, said this during an interview on elderly motivation. The older I get, the more I treasure silence. I don't need to explain myself. I just want to sit in my chair, hear the wind, and know, still here. The pressure to entertain, to attend, to stay involved, it becomes noise. At this stage of life, many seniors find that social fatigue is real. Even well-meaning interactions can drain you. You start to notice conversations that go nowhere. People who repeat the same stories. Friends who only call to complain. Visits that leave you feeling empty, not full. And you begin to understand peace is not a reward. It's your birthright now. It's okay to protect your space. To say not today without guilt. To prefer the birds outside your window to the buzz of another dinner party. That shift is not giving up. It's waking up. 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. Let's be honest, not every friend is really a friend. How many times have you reached out and heard nothing back? How often have you listened for hours but received silence when you needed someone? As you age, these experiences don't just sting, they cut deeper, because time feels more precious and disappointment feels heavier. That's why fewer friendships often bring more peace. Mrs. Lillian, 80, shared this. "I realized I was always the one calling, always the one remembering birthdays, always the one giving, and one day I stopped and guess what? No one noticed, so I stopped for good." This is one of the hardest life lessons from the elderly. Not everyone you love will love you the way you need, and that's okay. You don't need dozens of people in your life. You just need to stop carrying the weight of those who won't walk beside you. Letting go isn't bitterness, it's emotional maturity. And every senior deserves to feel the relief of releasing relationships that no longer give back. Fourth, your time becomes more precious than ever. After 70, time becomes something sacred. You no longer plan 10 years ahead. You think in seasons, in months, sometimes in weeks. And suddenly every day matters more. That's why you get to be selective about who gets your time, what conversations you have, how your energy is spent. Because time isn't free anymore, it's the most expensive thing you own. Mr. Raymond 76 put it beautifully. When I was younger, I wasted hours just to be polite. Now I protect my hours like gold. This is a quiet kind of motivation seniors learn with age. You realize you don't have to say yes to every lunch. You don't have to return every call. You don't have to explain why you want to stay home. You've earned the right to choose how your day unfolds. And you don't owe it to anyone who drains you. This isn't selfish, it's self-respect. It's part of aging well, with intention, dignity, and freedom. 5. True companionship comes from within. This is something most people won't understand until they live it. The best company you'll ever keep is your own. After 70, many seniors stop chasing the crowd and start returning to themselves. Reconnect with old hobbies. Rediscover quiet joys. Reflect on your life story. Learn to feel whole, not hollow, in solitude. Mrs. Carmen, 73, said it like this: I used to need people to feel okay. Now I sit in my kitchen with my coffee and feel peace all by myself. That's how I know I'm finally content. It's not loneliness, it's presence. Presence with your thoughts, with your memories, with your surroundings, with your breath. And from that presence comes a new kind of inspiration, one that doesn't come from outside praise or company, but from inner stillness. This is what elderly reflections often teach. You don't become wiser by having more people around. You become wiser by listening to your own voice. 6th, letting go creates space for what truly matters. When you finally stop holding on to old friendships that no longer serve you, something surprising happens. You make room for new connections that feel lighter. Family members you actually enjoy. Time with yourself that feels healing. Joy that doesn't require an audience. Letting go isn't about closing doors. It's about opening new ones. Doors to clarity, self-understanding, and emotional peace. And Mr. Ernest 79 put it simply: when I stopped chasing the old friendships, I finally had time for my grandson, for books I wanted to read, for things that brought me joy again. Because in the end, life isn't about being surrounded by people. It's about feeling alive with or without them. 7. The pressure to keep up phase in as a blessing. In your younger years, friendships often came with silent competition. Oh, who was doing better? Who looked younger? Who had the latest update, the busiest calendar, the most pictures to post? But after 70, the need to keep up quietly dissolves, and in its place comes relief. And Mr. Donnell, 75, said it clearly. I used to feel embarrassed if I didn't have much going on. Now I feel proud when I do nothing and enjoy it. Letting go of old friendships also means letting go of social pressure, image and maintenance, conversations based on comparison instead of connection. When your friendships are built on external appearances, they become emotionally expensive. But when you release those circles, you get something rare in return: authenticity. You start doing things for you, not for the updates. You enjoy quiet mornings without having to explain them. You feel no pressure to be busy, just to feel relevant. This is part of the emotional maturity that comes with aging. You stop chasing attention and start embracing stillness. That's not isolation. That's freedom disguised as simplicity. 8. Old friendships don't always grow with you. Friendship is often romanticized, but here's something most seniors learn. Some people are only meant to walk with you for a part of the journey. Maybe your values have changed. Maybe you've grown and they haven't. Maybe you've evolved emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and they've stayed stuck in old habits. Mrs. Eloise, 72, used to have a group of friends from her corporate years. But after retirement, the conversations felt shallow, gossip, negativity, nothing meaningful. One day I realized we weren't laughing anymore, she said. We were just replaying the past. Letting go of old friendships isn't a failure. It's an act of emotional alignment. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to release conversations that feel heavy. You are allowed to choose growth over loyalty to the past. This is elderly wisdom. Love people, yes, but don't carry them if they no longer walk beside you. 9. You learn that not all silence is emptiness. One of the scariest things about letting go of friendships is the silence that follows. At first, it can feel like loss. A phone doesn't ring. A calendar looks empty. The old routines fade away. But over time, many seniors find something unexpected in the quiet: clarity. Mr. Joseph 80 described it this way: "At first I missed the noise, but then I realized the silence was where I met myself again." Silence after 70 isn't a void. It's an invitation. An invitation to hear your thoughts without interruption. Feel your emotions without distraction. Rediscover what makes you happy. In a world that constantly pushes connection, choosing solitude becomes a revolutionary act of self-love. And when you embrace it, you start to feel full again, not because others filled you, but because you filled yourself. 10. Emotional independence is the real goal of aging. Many people chase physical independence, being able to walk, drive, cook. But just as important, and sometimes harder to achieve, is emotional independence. That means not needing validation, not fearing being alone, not relying on others for your self-worth. Letting go of unfulfilling friendships accelerates this process. Mrs. Connie 76 shared, "I used to check my phone all day, hoping someone would text. Now I check it once, and if there's nothing, I smile and make tea." This is what elderly motivation looks like. Not a sprint toward people, but a gentle walk back to yourself. You learn to enjoy your own company, not because it's your only choice, but because it's your best one. You don't need someone to laugh with every day. You just need to feel okay in your own skin. That's real strength. That's aging with grace. 11. The power of saying no more. Letting go of friendships takes courage, but what comes after is often surprising. Energy. Earning one-sided calls. Entertaining draining conversation. Forcing smiles that don't feel real. You suddenly have more space to breathe, rest, move, and think. Mrs. Hattie, 79, used to host tea for a group of friends every Friday, but the visits became complaints, comparisons, and subtle jabs. On Friday, she simply said, "No more." "I didn't feel guilty," she said. "I felt light." That's what boundaries do. They don't close your heart, they protect it. They don't block love, they filter it. Saying no more doesn't mean you stop loving others. It means you start loving yourself more. 12. Solitude allows room for new meaning. When you stop filling your time with old friendships that no longer feed your spirit, something amazing can happen. New meaning shows up. Spend more time with your grandchildren. Discover a hobby you forgot you loved. Volunteer in a way that gives you purpose. Reflect and write your own story. Make quiet walks that feel like prayer. Mr. Allen, 74, used to have lunch every week with a group of poker buddies, but after stepping away, he took up photography. Now he walks the park every morning with a camera and captures birds, trees, faces. "I see beauty now I never noticed before," he says, "because I'm not distracted." When your time is no longer consumed by noise, it's filled with presence. When your heart is no longer pulled by old ties, it becomes open to new joys. That is the gift of solitude. Not emptiness, but renewal. 13. You begin to define life on your own terms. Without the constant pull of friendships and expectations, seniors begin to ask themselves a powerful question. Does happiness mean to me now? Not to society, not to your family, not to friends. That's to you. For some, it's gardening. For others, it's watching birds, reading, prayer, painting, or simply being. Without the social noise, many seniors reconnect with themselves in a way they haven't felt in years. Mrs. Estelle, 78, described it like this: "I'm not lonely. I'm living slow and it feels like I'm finally breathing at the right speed." This is the kind of senior health we forget to talk about. Not blood pressure or steps walked, but emotional alignment. When your days match your desires, life feels lighter. even if it's quieter. 14. The peace that comes from letting things be. At some point, you stop needing to fix everything. You stop needing to understand why friends drifted. You stop analyzing who stayed and who didn't. You just let it be. You understand. Some people were chapters, not lifetimes. Some friendships were seasons, not forever. Some conversations don't need closure. And when you make peace with that, you stop looking backward. Now, you look inward. You look ahead. This is the deepest kind of peace. Not because you won the fight, but because you stopped fighting. And in that moment, many seniors find something they've been searching for their whole lives. Stillness, freedom, and peace that isn't tied to anyone else. 15. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. People often confuse being alone with being lonely, but seniors who've embraced independence know this truth. Solitude is not suffering. Loneliness is the ache of being disconnected. Solitude is the peace of being deliberately present with yourself. Mrs. Bernice, 81, lives by herself in a quiet apartment. She cooks for one, reads by the window, and writes in her journal. When asked if she ever feels lonely, she smiled gently and said, "Not once. I spent decades surrounded by people. Now I'm surrounded by peace. That's more than enough." Solitude gives seniors the space to hear their inner voice again, to make choices without noise, to enjoy simple routines without compromise. Loneliness says something is missing. Solitude says nothing is missing, this moment is whole. This understanding is one of the great life lessons from the elderly. You don't need people around you to feel complete. You need to feel at home inside yourself. 16. You stop chasing relationships that don't reciprocate. One of the most freeing parts of growing older is this quiet realization. If they wanted to be here, they would be. No more sending the first message, waiting for calls, wondering why someone drifted, making excuses for silence. Instead, seniors learn to accept the flow of life. Mr. Willis, 82, shared this reflection. "I called an old friend every week for a year. He stopped answering. I kept trying. Then one day I stopped, and when I did, I realized I hadn't lost him. I'd lost the need to be needed." That's emotional freedom. Not bitterness, not anger, just acceptance. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't stretch yourself thin for crumbs of connection. You stay where love and effort are mutual. Because at this age, your heart doesn't have time for guessing games. 17. Life slows down, and that's exactly what you need. In your 20s, fast was fun. In your 40s, fast was necessary. But after 70, slow becomes sacred. You wake up slower. You eat slower. You think slower. And most importantly, you feel more. When you're not rushing to maintain old friendships, not trying to keep up with everyone's drama, you begin to live each day with more intention. Mrs. Thelma, 79, said, "Before I was always on my way somewhere. Now I sit with my coffee and listen to the world. I think that's the most alive I've ever felt." This is what happens when you let go of the need to be involved in everything. You stop multitasking emotions. You start experiencing aha moments. That slowness is not decline, it's awareness. And it's one of the most precious gifts of senior living. 18. You discover new joys that have nothing to do with others. Without social distractions, many seniors finally discover what they actually enjoy, not what they were told to enjoy. And the answer is often simple. The smell of a homemade soup. The sound of birds at 5 a.m. Reading something that touches your heart. These are small joys, but they carry deep meaning. Mr. Leon, 78, began painting again after 50 years. No one knows. No one sees it, but I feel more myself than I have in decades. Elderly reflections often remind us, joy doesn't have to be loud. I don't need an audience. Sometimes the deepest joy is quiet, steady, and seen only by you. And when you stop filling your days with shallow connections, these moments rise to the surface. 19. You become comfortable with silence, and that's power. So many people fear silence. They run from it. They fill it with noise, news, company, anything but themselves. But when you embrace solitude, you learn that silence is not the enemy. It's where healing begins. Ideas emerge. Memories return. Peace. Mr. Stanley, 76, sits every morning without his phone. It's where I go to remember who I am, he says. Silence is where the clutter of other people's voices fades and your own truth becomes clear. At first it may feel unfamiliar, but over time that silence becomes sacred. A space where you're not performing, reacting, or explaining. You're just being. And that is enough. 20. Your final years deserve to be yours. Perhaps the greatest reason you don't need friends after 70 is this. These years are yours, truly yours. Not your bosses, not your friend groups, not society's. You don't have to spend your energy keeping others comfortable. You don't have to explain why you've changed. You don't have to stay where you no longer feel safe, seen, or supported. Say no. Say nothing. I say goodbye. Say this is who I am now, because you've earned it. These years should be filled with meaning, not maintenance. With rest, not obligation. With quiet happiness, not noise pretending to be joy. 21. You realize you are always enough. This is the final reflection many elders reach after letting go of old friendships. You were never lacking, you just forgot. You are always capable of enjoying your own company, strong enough to walk alone, wise enough to protect your peace, complete without constant companionship. Letting go of friendships that no longer serve you doesn't mean you've become cold or bitter. It means you finally understand something most people never learn. You are enough right now as you are. You don't need a full house to feel whole. You don't need a buzzing phone to feel loved. You don't need to be surrounded to feel worthy. You just need your present calm and at peace. And that perhaps is the greatest form of freedom anyone could ever ask for. If this message gave you clarity, comfort, or the strength to embrace your independence, consider liking and subscribing. Let this space be your reminder. You're not forgotten, you're not behind, and you're not alone in your peace. You are walking in wisdom, you are aging in truth, and you are living finally for yourself.